Welcome, grade 7 students. Our lesson today is about separation techniques, part 2. Objectives. At the end of this video, students will be able to explain the separation technique used to separate the constituents of a heterogeneous mixture with solid-liquid constituents, filtration. Materials. You need the chemistry worksheet, a notebook, a pencil, and the chemistry book. Instructions. Sit in a quiet and comfortable room. Watch the video more than once. Pause the video and try to solve the applications alone. Solve the homework assigned by your teacher. Now let's recall. We already know that matter can be classified according to its constituents into pure substance like sugar and mixture like water and oil. A mixture can be homogeneous like tea or heterogeneous like water, oil and sand. A heterogeneous mixture can be of solid-solid constituents, solid-liquid constituents or liquid-liquid constituents. Each constituent can be separated using different separation technique. A solid-solid constituent can be separated using magnet picking or hand sorting. A solid-liquid constituent can be separated using decantation. Now, do you know another separation technique used to separate the constituents of a heterogeneous mixture with solid-liquid constituents? In your opinion, is it necessary to use a water filter for the water tap? A water filter is made up of small openings called pores. So, what is the role of this filter? This filter allows the water to pass through it, but traps the solid particles like sand. Does this process represent a separation technique and why? We know that a separation technique is used to separate the constituents of a mixture, and here we observe that the sand particles and the solid particles are separated from the water. Then, yes, we can say that this process represents a separation technique, since it allows to separate water from solid particles. Now, let's propose a name for this technique based on the term filter. Based on the term filter, the new technique we are going to talk about is filtration. What are the materials you need to apply filtration separation technique? You need filter paper, beaker, funnel, muddy water, stirrer or glass rod, and a stand. Now, watch the following video about filtration.
You must have seen the use of a strainer to separate tea leaves from the brew and a muslin cloth to separate juice from the fruit pulp. But do you know how undissolved solid particles are separated from liquids? Yes, through a sieve or strainer. The liquid particles are small enough to pass through the pores of the strainer, but the solid particles are too large and so they cannot pass through. But what do we do when the solid particles are also very small? Well, we then use a strainer with even smaller pores like a filter paper. Let us see how a filter paper separates undissolved solids from the mixture of wheat flour and water. We need a mixture of wheat flour and water, conical flask, funnel, and a filter paper. Fold the filter paper in the form of a cone and fix it on the funnel. Pour the mixture of wheat flour and water on the filter paper. Wait and observe. Look. Clear water passes through the filter paper and gets collected in the conical flask. The wheat flour particles cannot pass through the filter paper and remain on the filter. This is because the pores of the filter paper are smaller than the particles of wheat flour. Filtration is a process by which insoluble solids can be removed from a liquid by using a filter paper or membrane. In the filtration process, liquid that filters through is the filtrate. Undissolved solid particles are residue. Now can you guess what you should use to separate, say, tea from the brew mixed with tea leaves and mud from muddy water?
After watching the video, let's correct your homework on worksheet 5, page 6. Exercise 1. Complete the legend of the below schema. Filter paper, stand, funnel, beaker. The filtrate is the liquid recuperated after filtration that passes through the filter paper, and here the filtrate is the water recuperated in the Erlenmeyer flask, which is water. The residue. The residue is the solid substances retained by the filter paper during filtration, and here the residue is the sand retained by the filter paper. Complete the legend of the below schema. First, let's remember, the filtrate is the liquid recuperated after the filtration that passes through the filter paper, and here, which one is the liquid recuperated? It's the water recuperated in the beaker. Also remember, the residue is the solid substance retained by the filter paper during filtration. And here, which one is the solid substance retained by the filter paper? It's the sand retained by the filter paper placed on the funnel. What is a filter paper? The filter paper is a special paper having pores, very small opening, that allow the infiltration and passage of the liquids but prevent the passage of some solids. Here, we can observe the pores of a filter paper after magnification. These pores allow the liquid to pass through them but prevent the passage of some solids. Indicate in the above experiment the residue and the filtrate. The residue is the sand retained by the filter paper after filtration. The filtrate is the water recuperated after filtration. Compare the aspect of the water obtained by filtration to the one obtained by decantation. We observe that after decantation the water is not clear, while after filtration the water is clear. Then, the water obtained by filtration is clearer than that obtained by decantation. Indicate the more accurate technique. Since the water after filtration is more clear than that after decantation, then we can say that the more accurate technique is filtration. Cross out the incorrect term in the following. Filtration is a separation technique that allows the separation of the constituents of a heterogeneous mixture, where the constituents are solid liquid. Remember that the aspect of water in filtration is more clear than that in decantation. Then, filtration is an accurate technique. This is why it is considered an efficient technique. Decantation is an non-accurate technique. This is why it is less efficient than filtration. Now, let us remember what are the physical properties. They are density, boiling point, and size of particles. Density. For example, why oil and water does not mix together? Since water is more dense, it settles down. We talk about boiling point when we use a source of heat, and we talk about size of particles when the constituents of the mixture have different sizes. On which physical property does this technique depend? Density, boiling point, or size of particles? In this technique, the particles of the sand are bigger than that of the pores of the filter paper, so the particles of the sand are retained by the filter paper, while the particles of water are smaller than the pores of the filter paper, so the particles of the water can pass through the filter paper. Then, the physical property that this technique depends on is size of particles. But, what is the usage of this filter in our daily life? Filtration is used to filter the water in pools, filter the water tap. Also, it is used in cars to clean the fuel before it enters the engine. used in preparation of coffee and in the usage of tea bags. Application 1. Complete the following statements. Please pause the video and try to solve it alone. The filtration technique is used to separate the constituents of a heterogeneous mixture. The liquid recuperated after filtration is called the filtrate. The solid substance retained by the filter paper after filtration is called residue. The physical property that filtration depends on is the size of particles. One usage of filtration in our daily life: filter fuel to clean it before it enters the engine. Conclusion: filtration is a separation technique used to separate the constituents of a heterogeneous mixture of solid liquid constituents. The materials we used in filtration are a glassware, muddy water, filter paper, funnel, and Erlenmeyer flask. The filtrate. The filtrate is the liquid recuperated after filtration that passes through the filter paper. The residue. The residue is the solid substance retained by the filter paper during filtration. The physical property that filtration depends on is the size of particles. Agenda. Review Worksheet 5. Study definitions page 6 plus exercise 1, 4 and 5 on Worksheet 5. Copy keywords 5 times. Filtration, residue, filtrate, filter paper, size of particles, stand and funnel. Watch centrifugation video and homework supplementary sheet and worksheet 6. Prepared by teacher Yumna Sarhal. Translated and voice recorded by teacher Hawra Abdullah. Reviewed and supervised by teacher Dalal Bays.